so we can get started. So thank you for coming along today. Really,
Oh no, it's a pleasure.
I'm just going to need to turn you up just a bit so I can hear you properly.
I'll just check my mic.
What do you use as a mic? Have you got a kind of earpiece?
I've got an earpiece, and I'm still getting on with it. I'm still learning, which is the best. Because if I put both earplugs in, it kind of blocks off too much sound from me. So I try to work with one. I'm learning where the mic is best go. Can you hear me okay now?
I can hear you perfectly, yeah. As long as you can hear me too. I can see you on 5 bars there, so that's good too.
So how many of these have you done by now?
Oh, that's a great question. I've actually got one still editing, and it's proving a little bit difficult to edit because of the way it was just done, and it was mostly my fault. But hey, I'm learning too.
Yeah, it's good. That's how we get on a new learning curve.
Yeah, and this is a different experience for me actually. I kind of just put this out because it kind of sort of struck me, and I don't know how many we've done now, 5, 6, 7 interviews. I don't know whether you're the 8th or the 7th. I can't remember. I'm losing count. But there's a whole bunch of people that like to do some more.
Cool.
But I put this together based upon really helping, I guess, practitioners out there to get engaged with their clients at a kind of why level. And I recognize that the why was all built within the stories that people have to tell about where they came from, and why the principles maybe made a difference to them and those around them as well. And so that's kind of why I started with the why. And you've done a great job at both constructing yours and sending them to me. So thank you for doing that. I don't know whether
you're welcome.
It's in front of you for you. Is it in front of you?
I've got it nearby, yeah.
That's fab. So I don't know, maybe I'll put this up so that people can read it too when we get to it. But maybe you can just start with what you've sent me and how that's manifested into the people that we see in front of us now and what you're doing.
Okay. Well, I was quite thoughtful. I loved the initiative, and I've read some of Simon Sinek's work, and I loved what you put out as an opportunity to talk about why. And when I thought about it for myself, I realized that my why is born out of kind of wanting to see for many years what holds people back from being more of who they truly are, what holds people back from operating from a place of well-being and potential. And you know, it's no surprise that part of that is down to my story and my search, both externally and internally as to what resonates with me. But I've always had this sense that we can be more of who we truly are. And I think the common mistake is to look outside of ourselves for that answer. I know that I went on a really long quest to look for that for myself. But I looked in every which way, you know, externally for an answer for something that could really only be found within. And when you put it in a way of you're really looking for peace of mind, then it becomes really obvious almost that's from within. So with that backdrop, I'll read out what I
Please do.
What I sent to you. So what I sent was, as for as long as I can remember, I've been fascinated in what holds people back from thriving and believing in their abilities. For a large part of my life, with some significant exceptions, I bought into a very limited view of myself. I achieved a lot, but at a high cost of stress, as I searched continually outside myself for answers to how I could do better. I know from those that I talk to in and out of organizations that this is very common. And the more that we buy into our limited views of ourselves, the more it innocently and unnecessarily restricts individuals and companies from growing. Having now understood simple, provable, universal truths of how the mind works and the innocent misunderstandings that hold us back, I now help others to experience a greater sense of personal grounding so that they can thrive and live happier, more productive lives. I do this mainly through coaching and education, but in any other way I can.
How easy was that to put together?
I've had elements of it that when I sat down to put it together, it became, you know, it became easy when I put pen to paper, but it's taken a long time for the elements to kind of come together.
Yeah.
That moment. So the kind of the physical answer of putting pen to paper, not very long, but in terms of sifting out what was real and not real and what was important and not, that's been a bit of an ongoing journey to me. I know when I wrote it, it felt authentic to me, and I'm sure it'll grow and kind of walk over time, but there's a truth in there that I know that I can look back through my life and see a core to a journey that has been true, that I have been looking for well-being and potential within myself, and that I have looked outside myself for that, and that story is written through much of what I've done. But I also wanted to capture in that there's an innocence in that misunderstanding. And I was talking about this earlier on today to somebody on a Skype call, that it really surprises me that I've got it surprises and delights me that I've got no negative judgment on how long it's taken me to realize. Yeah, and you would think, right, when you look back, you would think, how long did it take you to realize something that's already within, and then to have a judgment on the length of that journey. But I've it's really generous, this understanding, in such a way that when you know it, and it feels true, and the judgment falls away around that. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does, yeah. And as you were saying it, I was getting curious about my experience over it, and it certainly, I remember coming across the principles and the changes it made with me and also the people around me, and thinking, well, it's sad that, you know, I must have been late 40s, early 50s, that when I suddenly discovered this, and I was disappointed for like maybe the 40 odd years of my life that I could have understanding. And but the interesting thing is that was surprising how quickly that fell away. That's the interesting thing. I did have a thought that, oh my gosh, if only I had known through these periods and of difficulty for myself and also for those around me, it would have been of use. And okay, it wasn't very well articulated then, but clearly we all had it. But the interesting thing is the like you say, it fell away really quickly. Like, okay, but that was then and this is now, and it's about now.
Yeah, it is. And you know, I think there's something really fundamentally forgiving within that, which is not of my making. It just occurred as part of the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounded like it had a very profound effect on you with the words you've written and the way that you bought into, you know, those external forces that you thought that were part of the system.
Yeah.
It changed over. Was there a point in time when it came along? How did you come to it?
Well, I kind of, I had been, going back a few years ago now, in a previous career, I had been representing UK interests into the United Nations, into a trade facilitation arena. So the basic job there was to simplify trading standards to make it easier for countries to move goods between each other.
Yep.
And that role I did for about 15 years, and I was always on the road, Martin. I was the archetypal ticket in one pocket, passport in the other, and suitcase always packed. And I might be in 3 countries in the space of as many weeks, and then off again. So it was a very, at the time I thought it was a very stressful life I was living, because I was always on the road, and I put my stress down to the amount of traveling that I was doing, and to the extent to which I was doing it, always being on the road. And then I burned out as a result of that. My body just kind of said, enough is enough, and I got something called sarcoidosis, which is a lung disease, and had to take a significant amount of time off work, 4 months off work. And during that time, it occurred to me that it can't be what I'm doing, it must be how I'm doing it. And it occurred to me that it can't be what I'm doing, because I knew some of my peers from other countries were traveling to the same extent that I was. So it wasn't the travel. It couldn't be the travel. It must be my way of engaging with the role, which was quite insightful, I think. But I took that insight and I kind of ran the wrong way with it.
Yeah,
because
it's my fault.
So it was my fault. And what do I need to do to do better, to be better, to operate better, to be more efficient? So I went on an efficiency, productivity, how-to drive for more years than I'd care to admit. But through that, it was kind of, okay, how to be more efficient at handling my email, and how to be more efficient at being a manager, and how to be a better presenter, and 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, NLP, and I look back and I basically replaced my travel externally with a travel in my own mind to get better, and I put so many things that I needed to get better at in front of me, and then I set about striving to get better at those things through courses and reading and self-help books, etc. Until one point where I walked through the front door of my house and I said to nobody in particular, because nobody was in, I said, "Is there any training that makes any difference?"
Wow.
And I'd done a lot of training. I said, so in that moment, I said, no more. I'm not doing any more. I'm stopping. This is not the way. And it took a couple of years before I came across the 3 principles after that. But I read something, and I read Michael Neill's book, Inside Out Revolution. And I felt different as reading it. And I read it again straight away. And then I read it again straight away, 3 times in a row. And I've never done that with any other book, because I felt a feeling that was from reading the book, but I couldn't logically and intellectually understand the feeling. But I knew that something had touched me in the reading of the book. And then I came across a blog article by somebody who's done one of these seminars with you, these recordings with you, Kimberly Hare.
Oh, yeah.
And I came across her blog article, and many of my blog articles go straight into trash because there's just there's so much come in these days. But for some reason this resonated with me, and I read the blog article, and it sounded different to the Kim that I had experienced. I'd done some training with her years before. It really resonated as being different. So I picked up the phone and I gave her a call. Now, remember I said, I'm not doing any more training. But I wanted to give her a call, and she was advertising a 2-day workshop between her and Michael Neal. And so I gave her a call. And as I listened to her, she sounded very different to the Kim that I had experienced.
Yeah.
Kim I had experienced 3-4 years before that was tools, techniques, all of the stuff that I was looking for, but I couldn't hold in my kit bag, because there was too much more thinking on top. And I said to her at the end of the call, you know what, you sound very different, Kim. And she said, I'm really pleased that you said that, because I feel different too. I'm training from a completely different place. And I said, well, listen, I've promised not to do any more training, because I'd had enough, but I'm going to do this 2-day workshop with you. So I booked into the 2-day workshop, and it was Michael Neal day 1 and Kim day 2. It was all about the 3 principles, and I didn't understand a word. I didn't understand anything except for one thing that Michael said on day 1. And the thing that he said, Martin, was, are you home in yourself, or are you away? Are you home in yourself, or are you away in your thinking all of the time? And for some reason that just lodged. It felt significant. I didn't really understand it until Kim showed something on day 2. And she showed a video in a TED talk of a slow motion video of nature during one of the breaks. And I felt a feeling during that talk. I thought, that's it, that's home. But the significant thing for me was that it was a remembered feeling. And that remembered feeling made all the difference. It connected to something that I knew to be true, rather than something that was brand new and different and something else to search for. And that began the kind of that was the kind of the beginning of my understanding of 3 principles, if you like, because I knew that the experience of home for me was well-being. And something that I've been searching outside of myself for was within me. So that was kind of like the acorn beginning to take some kind of root and to grow for me. It was a rather long-winded answer, but I hope I've
yeah, but it was such a beautiful and considered answer, recognizing that you remember it so obviously very vividly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting doing these interviews. Most people have a vivid understanding or vivid clarity over that moment that it started to take hold.
Yeah.
Likewise myself. But it's really interesting that you remember the moment that it kind of hits you.
Yeah.
And a remembered moment. And there's often when I'm with a client, something miraculous will happen. Even this week, some miraculous stuff happened with an intensive with a client I had this week. And I often say to them, when was the last time you felt like this? And they go back and then go back further and then go back further. And it's almost, I can't remember ever feeling like this, but I do remember feeling like this somehow. And probably since childhood.
Yeah.
Early childhood, that place of kind of freedom and stuff. You don't have a care in the world almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where it is.
And it's kind of, and then once you get, my experience of that personally is that once you get eyes for it, you kind of can remember more and more of those moments that were rare. So I remember when I used to be coaching from an NLP techniques kind of point of view a few years ago before coming across this understanding. And I was coaching somebody, and our second child had just been born, and so sleep was a rare quality in our house because one of us would be looking after our son, and one of us would be looking after our new daughter, and sleep was was missing in large quantities, and I was still coaching at this time. And I was showing up to clients really, really exhausted. But the coaching sessions were going beautifully. Like something magical was happening in the coaching sessions. And I wasn't using any of my tools, any techniques, nothing. It was kind of like I was just showing up and being in the moment with them, and something would occur. And I was so taken by this event back then that I took this to my supervisor at the time. I said, how come when I'm really exhausted, I coach really well? I don't understand. The answer can't be keep having children.
Yeah.
She said those words, I can't. I'm really enjoying the coaching. The client's really getting a lot from it. I'm exhausting, but I'm not using any of my training. What's going on?
Yeah.
And we couldn't fathom it back then. This is going back six or 7 years. And I didn't understand that until I came across the 3 principles. That I was, one of the core aspects of the principles is we're living in a thought created reality, and I was doing a lot of thinking with other clients that I wasn't doing when I was showing up just tired. I was just being present. And I haven't seen my supervisor for years, but I managed we caught up last week actually in a kind of a colleague capacity. We don't work together anymore. And I said, I remember that story that I told you about not being able to understand why I coach better when I'm tired. I know the answer now. She says, I've been telling that story to so many people, and tell me what the answer is. And I said, I wasn't getting in my way. I wasn't getting in my own way. I was just showing up as who I was with a helpful spirit, and that was enough.
Yes. And you still only have 2 children?
Yeah, well, I've got 3 now.
3 now, okay. Yeah. Well, maybe a bit more into it.
But so when you get eyes for those moments, that remembered feeling, not being on our own way, you kind of, a few things are coming to mind more and more of, oh yeah, I remember that situation where I just backed off and something really lovely happened. And I remembered that situation where I stopped trying and something really nice happened. And I remember kind of, when we're in company with some people and we were just being ourselves. So there's something about the innate well-being and potential that shows up of its own accord when we're not trying too hard. When you get eyes for that, as with your client, I think the more memories of the truth of that surface.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And interestingly, most of it appears in the client, and they realize it that when they slow down.
Yeah.
This intensive was a very interesting one because interestingly, when I sold this and said, look, we could do an intensive, we could do this, we could do that. But I'd never done intensive before, but we turned up. And I didn't have much on it. I knew that all I had to do was kind of turn up. But the interesting thing was towards the end of the sessions, he began to realize kind of almost what was going on. And he said, well, look, all I'm doing is talking and almost resolving it myself. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And it's kind of and the speaking thing and me not then getting in the way of his stuff and me not, interfering.
Yeah.
It resolves itself when he slows down.
Yeah.
That's what he saw then.
Yeah.
When he slows down enough, it settles.
Yeah.
And the solution appears in front of him because it was always there, clearly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he came with a whole baggage of stuff. He went home empty with nothing to go and resolve.
Yeah.
Lovely. Beautiful. Wonderful session. So it sounds like you've been into practice before doing a different modality with different sort of coaching. It was NLP or something like that.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And you moved from that, you dropped that, moved into principles.
Yes, and so it doesn't make any sense to me anymore to go to tools and techniques. It doesn't. It's not to say, Martin, that there aren't a couple of really interesting questions from back when I was doing all of that still pop up, still resonate in the moment, but I'm not looking to tools and techniques and models to coach people from. It's more now about pointing people to the truth behind their experience.
Yeah, I know what you mean about that.
Yeah.
I know what you mean about the kind of when the tool pops in, it's actually there of use because it's pointing in the same direction.
Yeah. And I was trying to be careful how I said that because what I'm not doing is dismissing all of that and saying none of that's any good. What I'm saying is it doesn't make sense for me anymore to use them on a day in, day out basis, but occasionally something in the same direction pops in and is relevant.
Yeah, that's actually very, very useful. I guess for those that are out there that are looking pure, but something occurs to you that you've seen before that actually looks like it's, or rather is guiding us towards that way anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't become a tool anymore or a thing to practice. It's just pointing the same way.
Yeah, I did a whole lot of training around solution-focused coaching. And one of their questions occasionally comes to mind, which is there's a miracle question. If you woke up tomorrow and everything was as you would like it to be, how would that be? If I'm using that as a tool or a technique and it's labored, it's not of service anymore. But if the question pops in, it's a lovely question when it's appropriate.
And something actually that sort of struck me as you were saying that was the ability for us as almost to come in with something left field that helps people to just reconsider. Yeah. That in itself helps people kind of step up in their consciousness and consider things differently, and therefore that almost is a slowing process in itself. Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting slant.
And that's an in the moment thing, as you describe it, isn't it? That's looking to wisdom in the moment for what feels or what resonates, or it just coming in the moment, and it's the perfect thing.
Yeah. Something else just popped in, if I may. Again, what you like to try and do through intake clearly is sometimes to kind of throw a pebble in the pond and see how it comes back. You know, see what the reflections you get back from that pebble in the pond, what comes back from that. And sometimes you're well off mark and something else will occur and you'll throw another pebble in somewhere else in the pond.
Yeah.
Different reflection will come back.
Yeah.
Which will guide you a little bit in terms of kind of where you might want to maybe take the conversation.
Yeah.
That's a kind of a useful thing to do, but it's all given to us.
And we're not going to a predefined kit bag, but neither are we denying the fact that we've had some training of some point back here that might have some relevance in the moment.
Yeah.
And that just widens the field of possibilities, I think, because if we were to deny ourselves our own experience, then we're narrowing ourselves towards being open towards that. You know?
With you. No, that's really neat. So what sort of clients do you engage with at the moment? Mostly, what's your bag?
Well, at the moment, I'm transitioning from, I'm working on business improvement projects, and I'm transitioning to do more coaching and more training. So the direction that I'm going in, that feels really connected and right for me, is that I love. It's no part of my learning with the United Nations and all of that is I love public speaking, and I love engaging with people in groups, and I love one-to-one stuff. And I'm taking my direction that way because it really feels insightfully right for me to do that. And the other thing that's a surprise to me in that is that over the course of my learning in the 3 principles, my way of capturing the importance of change and unfolding an insight within me has been through poetry. So I've been writing a lot of poetry from a 3 principles point of view as well. So I'm putting together a collection on that. And I don't know how this is going to fold together because it's very, very new. But my sense is that it'll fold together in some way, as you know, it will if it will, and it won't if it won't.
Wonderful.
But my and I've got a kind of I've been a part of some Facebook groups where I'm creating some 3 principles poetry in those as well. But my sense is that with conversation, spoken word, coaching, events, and poetry, that's the direction of travel I'm going in, and I want to get beyond the. I got quite my own story, Martin, is that I got very up in my head and very intellectual and very caught up in that cycle, and I know in business, and I know that I'm not unique in that. And so I'm looking for ways to get behind the radar on that, or to get underneath the thinking. And think, and poetry is one form of doing that.
Mm. Yeah, neat. Well, that's wonderful. So tell us a little bit about closing. I guess is there a way that people can get in touch with you if they wanted to talk to you specifically about what you do and to give them help? How do they get in touch with you, first of all?
Well, if they go to Facebook, my Facebook page is Undriven Mind. So it's Undriven Mind, and do a search on that, and I'm there. And I'll have a website soon called petewilson.co.uk. They can reach me there. So I'd be very happy to talk or connect with anybody on that.
Sure. And is there an email address that's appropriate, or would you rather people go to the Facebook page?
The email for now is peterwilson4@mac.com.
Excellent.
Cool.
Excellent. You got the number 4.
Yes. There's more than one Peter Wilson.
Wow. Yeah. Yes, that's fantastic. Okay, well, that's fabulous. Is there anything else you'd like us to share with me or with the camera, or?
I guess the thing that comes to mind is, you know, there'll be a lot of people that are watching this that have been on some kind of search or some kind of quest for inner peace or peace of mind or a sense of completeness within themselves. And I would just encourage them to look in this direction, because the story that I've told and people that I've met and what I've shared here in the video as well, and I've seen on your other videos, is that there's a vast amount of hope and generosity from looking in this direction, and that's the beginning of an unfolding. And so I just encourage people to stay in the conversation, look in this direction, and connect with, you know, even if the only thing from this video is that there's a remembered feeling of home within themselves, that once that's touched, that leads to new hope and new possibilities.
Wonderful. Yeah, that works. That looks beautifully. Thank you really so much for that. Thank you for joining me today. And I think that's a wonderful message.
Thank you. And it's lovely to do this with you. Thanks, Martin.
Okay, thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.